Time Bank believes in a banking future with more for every entrepreneur. Start paying less and getting more. With Time Bank, you've got this.
Welcome to Small Business E-volution. I am Nontobeko Gumede. On today's episode, we are joined by Mayo Twala, who is the founder of My Stock Exchange. Now, unlike other digital devices, this microfinance application has a gamification to it, which encourages South Africans of working class to invest as well as save money in the stock markets through ETFs. Mayo, thank you so much for joining us. I'm actually quite keen in finding out just the process and what sparked your interest in having to start such an app.
Yes, so thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Some background is I did my master's at the University of Cardiff in 2021 during the pandemic. And what I noticed was the people who needed that help, specifically like our helpers, our gardeners, so on and so forth, weren't getting the right attention. So when my helper, who's like a mother of two, has her own salary, will come back from the bank and is quite distraught by how people interpret her intelligence and her money. That was my sign to do something. So Stock App started originally in my university years. And I've just, been building on it now, because the idea that, our people who serve 90% of our population are not being represented. So that was the main thing for me, just to make sure that there's a difference. I can't sit comfortably knowing that people feel financially undeserved. So that was my idea.
That's very remarkable, Mayo, that you were able to identify a challenge within your community or society rather, and decided to come up with a solution. But what are some of the processes that go into having to build such a fintech app like this? I mean, starting up a business, some people might think, okay, let me start this and that, but no one actually thinks of venturing into the tech space. So how was it for you building this?
So it was actually quite helpful because I did my master's in the UK. My technology was built by the University of South Wales. So they helped us build a prototype from start to end, mentorships, pitching, the different ideas. Because as you say, it is quite tough starting a fintech, because most of them fail within the first 3 to 6 months, and we're going on to 3 years. So that being said, it hasn't been easy because our registration is in the UK, our tax restrictions are in the UK, and generally our interface was built by the UK. So to bring it to South Africa is my way of trying to integrate that financial system, because it is really tough. If I'm honest, so when I have to register a company in South Africa, I wouldn't know where to start. So primarily where I got the support was from the UK government. And that's why I thought it best just to share what I've learned, because it's not something that you can just find out on the internet. It really depends on who you know, how your networking is going, and essentially what your message is.
Just speaking on just some of the tax restrictions or just the overall regulations that you have been facing in UK and South Africa probably, we know that funding and capital have been a hindrance for startups actually, so especially for fintech startups as well. How have you been able to raise funds for making this app possible?
So I think what was really beautiful is the data that we use, or the data splicing that we use, really comes with the use of the technology. So when we were using South Africa as a population study, it worked really well because I could raise funds in the UK. So the government gave me about £25,000, and that was through internships for people working for us so that we could push our product. What was really nice was because I was working with a South African population database, and I was also working with the UK in terms of what's happening with our tax regulations, bank status, so on and so forth. The investment came quite easily when I was that side. I'm noticing, though, there is far more of a challenge this side. And of course, that could be up to do with many economic challenges that we have. But what I'm finding is it was so much easier to raise money there, but it's gaining more interest in South Africa. So it's just finding a way to marry the two quite successfully.
Which won't be an easy process for sure. Mayo, you've mentioned earlier that the app caters to the working class, which makes sense given that, saving and investments would be among their top priorities. However, we frequently associate gaming with young people when we think about it. How do you package your service offering in a way that it's appealing to your target markets?
And that's a great question, because there's also the confusion of, the gaming industry and that you need to be super talented. But really what we thought was not 90s nostalgia. That's the best way I can put it, is we said, what games did we enjoy when we were kids and our parents also enjoyed? And we figured out things like Pac-Man, Solitaire, Minecraft, all the games you used to play on desktop as a child. We found that those work quite well with aging population, but also a younger population, because the idea of the games is not to intimidate you. It's to tell us your level of literacy when using computers. And from there, we can use data sets to determine what the best outcome for you would be, whether it's an ETF, a unit trust, a cash fund, insurance, or a list. So the idea is it's for us to help you. So up until now, I've been funding the website. And so now every year at this time, we recalibrate to see how we make the product better. And so I always enjoy the feedback I get when people go onto the website, or even just sign up and tell us what sort of games they would like, because then it helps me inform what's relevant, because you also don't want to lose a whole area of the market. So our appeal is 90s nostalgia, Pac-Man, super simple, easy. Minecraft is a bit harder, but those are the sorts of games we look at just to help people feel more comfortable with finance.
What a great way of bringing in some awesome childhood memories to your South African audience, Mayo. And just before we wrap up, can you just touch on the plans for the near future? Let's just say 3 years, on how you foresee My Stock Exchange growing.
Yes, so the next 3 years for me really count on the partnerships that we have. We found that banking partnerships are a lot harder to gain because fintechs are quite new, and of course to older institutions they can look a bit risky. So for me, in the next 3 years, is to be registered globally without any restrictions, having figured that out. To also have like a certified banking partner or a venture capitalist. But most importantly, in 3 years, I'd like to see our economy coming out of junk status and increasing our value in the economic scale because of our economic value as stock up. So that would be my 3-year wish, to make sure that we can help the economy get out of our current economic situation.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mayo. Hopefully South Africa will be out of its financial woes soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and let's hope for the best.
That was the founder of My Stock Exchange, Mayo Twala, showing us how her company is changing the game of saving and investments, making it more fun and educational. Stay tuned for more on Business Day TV.
TimeBank believes in a banking future with more for every entrepreneur. Start paying less and getting more. With TimeBank, you've got this.